skyline, baby, let the truth come rushing in. Don't you let your heart go anywhere, just think what might have been. Now that all the waiting's over, don't know what I would get. To hide among the bygone shadows where I am and you begin. Because there's never been a better time to be
All right, good evening and welcome to Charlie McGrath's Wide Awake News. It is November 20th, 2013, and it's time for Karen's Corner because this is Wednesday. Now, I really want to say that I am grateful to those of you who have shared your thoughts with me, although some of them are still very angry that I am blasphemous enough to actually question our religions. And the reason that I do so is because our world is in critical condition, and we are ignoring it and justifying that by our belief systems. Christianity is the most popular religion globally, followed by Muslims and Hindus. And I want to know what it is within us that keeps us from taking action now and justifying it and still somehow believing that we will gain rewards after we die. None of us knows what will happen after we die until we die. And yet we are content to believe those who claim they do, who make millions of dollars telling us what they find there. And lots of times it is no fear. Reincarnation has been stated to these people who come back and give us their life after death experiences or near death experiences. But when I look around, we have Fukushima and radiation. We are complicit in ignoring this to our demise, with the Gulf continuing to be polluted by toxins. We are a sick people globally, and yet we don't pay attention to that because we are waiting to die. Something within us recognizes there is more to the picture than we've been told. In my belief, we've been hijacked since before birth. We have a divine umbilical cord that was cut the minute we had an ultrasound frequency or we were yanked from our mothers. We're born into debt, we die in debt. Why is it that we are so willing to forego our lives here in order to regain or to gain rewards afterward when we don't really know what is there? Why are we so willing to flush ourselves down the toilet, destroying this planet, and yet thinking somehow when we move to the next level, when we leave our earthly bodies, that is deserving of a reward? Where is our honor in allowing people who put profit above all to reign and tell us what to do? How are we moral people when every day we are either allowing this corruption to continue or we are enforcing it, wearing a uniform and foregoing our morality? Everywhere I look, I see pain. I see us living in survival mode, afraid that there isn't enough when there is enough. It's in the hands of a few people, and these people also coincidentally sit in the front rows in churches and contribute. What is it about us that makes it blasphemous to even question why we are like this, why we are, in a sense, waiting to die? So when I ask whether or not Jesus existed and whether it matters, it's not only Jesus, but it's all religions that keep us from taking action here, that keep us from being really involved in the good stewardship of this world, which seems to me to be the most important job that we can have. Yet we are convinced through religion and politics that our worth is dependent upon colored pieces of paper and metal. What is it that keeps us from saving ourselves? So Jesus, man or myth, and does it matter? I think is a very important question, but it leads us to other religions as well. For I do not believe that Abraham, who is believed to have started Judaism, also was correct. I don't think any of us have the whole picture. We are parts of a puzzle, and I want to find out why we cannot save ourselves here and now. So, in order to look further into that, I have my guests tonight, and I am looking forward to chatting with them. It looks like Joseph Atwill has been hung up for some reason. Hopefully he will be here soon. So in the meantime, I am going to first introduce my guests and then allow them to answer this very important question. I will start with a freelance ordained Universalist minister and a former Protestant Christian fundamentalist from childhood, Reverend Jim. Welcome to the program. And my question to you is, Jesus, man or myth, does it matter?
Just very succinctly, I would say no, because it's the message that really matters. It's what, when you really get down to it, who knows what is true about the history that we are told? In any kind of story of history, we can say, is it a myth? Is it a lie? Or is it... I can hardly hear you right now, whoever's speaking.
I'm sorry, Jim. It's a lot of times due to you using a phone, because a telephone will not pick up as well. We don't have as good a quality. So to you, it doesn't matter if Jesus existed, but you think that his teachings are important?
Well, his message is what's important. The message of compassion and love and empathy and forgiveness. And the fact he says that we are greater than these things will we do. You know, when people marveled at all the miraculous things he is alleged to have done, he says, well, greater than these shall you do. So it's a matter of stretching our imagination.
Well, all right. Although, in my opinion, it's difficult to wrap my mind around that when I don't know exactly who wrote those words. So let's bounce right now then to John Jones, who is in Germany, and it's a little after 1 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for joining us. And to you, Jesus, man or myth, and does it matter?
Good morning, afternoon, evening, Karen. It's a little after 2 for me in Munich. I hope you can hear me because I don't hear myself coming across. Are you getting it?
Asking you a question.
Yes, I am. And is this better? I turned up my volume as well, so hopefully this will help both you and Jim. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, good. All right, go, John.
Karen, I think it's an interesting mix of questions. Of course, I completely agree with Reverend Jim, and it's the message that's important. I think one of the interesting and unfortunate aspects of our culture is that we seem to easily gravitate to the personality cult, whether it's Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, or Elvis Presley. We seem to have this tendency to look at the physical aspect of things in somebody's personal history and build monuments to that and debate about the accuracy of it, as opposed to really just looking at the message, which is the most important thing. But for me, what's even more interesting is this idea of assuming, which I know you're not making an absolutely broad generalization, but I would like to know a little bit more about what compels you to believe that Christians, I guess, or anybody else for that matter, how many people you think are really not acting because they're ready to die and they are looking forward to this beautiful afterlife?
The apathy that I see in the world, our ability to completely overlook the total corruption in the not-so-White House, the privately owned Federal Reserve, our unwillingness to actually look at the secret societies who are in control of the money, and our willingness to sacrifice ourselves, to stand in line for hours, to kiss the ring, to go through reenactions of the resurrection, to deny ourselves, to go to war somehow thinking that this is justified and that God is on our side, and to somehow think that if we ignore the fact that profit is king in this world, we still, by ignoring that fact, will gain eternal rewards later because we're simply following and being obedient to a system of rules and regulations set forth through religions.
Well, I think it's overly simplified. Unfortunately, I think that view is overly simplified. It's more likely that people who are asleep are being deluded by metaphysical forces. So, did Jesus exist? Of course, because there's just too much real evidence. Unfortunately, the evidence is metaphysical, just as the evidence of mind control is metaphysical, which is why I personally don't believe in most conspiracy theories with a capital C, because I think there are metaphysical causes for that no one can really link and prove. That's why nothing ever gets proved. You can't prove it in this material world.
Well, the thing is, I am familiar with what Joseph Atwill was putting forward in Caesar's Messiah. And according to all the experts there, when you get to the actual question of whether or not Jesus existed, there is no physical evidence, and the writers of the time did not speak about him. When he documents the military exploits of the Flavians, who indeed did follow the Judeo-Claudio line, and who were instrumental in setting this up, and actually who were the first saints, you find a different picture. There was, back there when Julius Caesar was alive and emperor, there was an imperial court who were very much vested in believing that the emperor was God. And in order to promote this philosophy, they had their parties, they attended the, court, they had all of this in order to promote this idea. I mean, I think that within ourselves is that divine umbilical cord we recognize. We just don't know what to call it, and it's hijacked at birth in order to funnel us into different religious theologies that keep us from taking action here. Jim, Reverend Jim, you have a comment on that? And
yes, I'd like to say that, we could all go around endlessly discussing whether or not Jesus was real or whether he's a mythological concoction of somebody's imagination. But the important thing is, what does Jesus represent? And when we see him, allegedly doing things, healing the sick and raising the dead, walking on water, and functioning in love and compassion, it's really what he represents that is more important than whether he really existed in a physical form or not. And it's time for human consciousness to evolve beyond religion. And this is a place where human consciousness is evolving to right now. It's time to take off the training wheels of religion. If we could say that religion in its very best expression functions as spiritual training wheels to move us in the right direction of love and compassion. But the ruling elite that have ruled this world for at least a couple thousand years, if not longer, have used religion as a mind-control programming mechanism to make us all compliant and submissive to their tyranny. And it's time for us to evolve beyond that into the consciousness of a compassionate caretaker. We're here to be caretakers, to take care of each other and take care of all living things. That's my perspective on things at the moment.
No, I appreciate that, and that's where I am also coming from, because it seems to me that we need to be good stewards of our planet here and now and not expect a reward later for allowing our world to be destroyed for profit. Meat Dog, welcome.
I need to say that my first opinion is your whole point, and with this man versus myth agenda, is to diminish Christ and to diminish Christianity. Because if you could say Christ never existed, then who put the words in his mouth? What meaning does the Christian religion have? It becomes utterly meaningless, because if Christ says, "I am the way, the truth, and the light, and none comes to the Father but through me," then that kicks the struts out from the underpinnings of Christianity, and Christ just becomes some avatar or some other mystic that among dozens.
Okay, I agree. However, when I look at the evidence, and I would encourage everyone to actually do some research themselves. Meat Dog, there are many other religious belief systems that predated Christianity that have the same story. Horus.
They don't quite have the same story of Christ. They're quite different. They may have a few superficial similarities, but the whole idea of Christ is totally different and totally anathema to other pagan religions like the Muslim or the Hindu religion.
Actually, Meat Dog, and I'm going to put you on hold here for a second because we've got our other guests, but in 3000 BC, Attius was also from Greece. He was called the son of light. He actually he was born from a virgin. We see lots of these who are born from a virgin. They are doing miracles and teaching at an early age. They have 12 disciples. They survive life after death. This to me is extremely interesting. Krishna, Dionysus, Attis, Mithra. There are many of them, and it's very, very similar. So why can we overlook something like that, thinking that there's one true religion, when if he did not exist, who wrote the words? And in Joseph Atwell's research says and proves with military battles and everything else that actually when the Romans sacked Galilee, they took Josephus prisoner. Josephus turned coat and he began to work with the Romans, telling Vespasian, Flavian that he would one day be emperor. Then they went to Jerusalem. They sacked Jerusalem. First they surrounded it. They starved them out. They left no stone unturned. And they took every Jewish scripture they could find back to Rome to study. They completely burned out all the other teachings. They murdered, they stole, they put to death horribly and crucified those who would go against them. And the Romans had the Jewish scriptures ultimately all to themselves. What they wanted was a way to control the Jews who were not into statues. They were into written words. They wanted to control the Jews. They wanted to give them the Savior that the Jewish prophecies were speaking about. And also with this imperial court, they wanted to claim Vespasian, Flavian as a god and his son Titus also as a god. So when we look at our world and the way that each and every faction of it has been infiltrated by the New World Order and by secret societies, many of those we don't look at or question, I wonder who really did write these words of Jesus and told us to turn the other cheek while at the same time paying off Caesar. And it seems to me there is more afoot here than we're willing to believe, and that still that divine umbilical cord that we all recognize, we don't even have a chance to explore because we're hijacked the moment we're born and channeled into a religion where we're given this source a name, and we fight with each other our whole lives as to which God is better, destroying ourselves and our world in the process. So, all right, Meat Dog, before I let you go, you got a couple minutes here, and then I'll get to my guests, and we'll see what they have to say.
Okay, the bottom line is you can't blame Christ for how his teachings have been misinterpreted and twisted for earthly religions. I'm a Christian, but I don't go to any church because I refuse to practice in go to 501c3 church that's been corporatized. So you have to separate Christ and his pure message from how it's been distorted and warped corrupt churches, especially the Catholic Church, and many of the Protestant churches now that I think are just corporate entities that are in it for their own gain. So we need to keep the two separate, and we can't smear Christ with a perversion of his original message.
That's neat. I'm going to go now to John because, again, I mean, our history is written by the winners. So we're still talking about someone who may not have existed and yet professing that this in itself doesn't matter because the teachings are good, but there are two sides to that teaching. John, what say you?
Well, I think it's just a distraction, to be totally honest, and I know it kind of subverts the argument, which is addressed very eloquently by Mr. Atwell and his filmmaking team. I had a chance to look at the film, and there's an extraordinary amount of compelling thoughts and interesting supposed evidence for different things, and it's the same thing that happens in our thought processes every day. We are presented with this so-called world, and it seems to be real, and there's all this evidence of the importance of material possessions and food and a house to live, a roof to live under. And I was walking around in Vienna yesterday, getting very cold, thinking how grateful I was just to have a place to live.
Okay, yeah, you got to hold that thought. We'll right.
Material things telling us what's real.
Take a break right now. You can continue, John, when we get back. Thanks for calling me. We'll be right back after these messages.
Heart-related health problems affect millions of people each year. Maybe you're one of the many who suffer from issues related to angina pain, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeat, or clogged arteries. There is a solution that doesn't involve expensive prescription drugs that only mask the problem and leave you with horrible side effects. If you are ready to live your life free of sickness, pain, and fear, live your life with increased vitality, energy, and youthfulness, and experience your body healing itself, then you're ready for Heart and Body Extract from Healthy Hearts Club. Heart and Body Extract has a 23-year proven track record of using certified organic herbs that make up an excellent formula to balance and support the heart and circulatory system. In as little as 2 weeks, you can feel amazing results when your 2-month supply of Heart and Body Extract today. Call 1-866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements every day, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, and even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com and now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae species found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. Bio Superfood is a strong defender in the fight against radiation exposure. Bio Superfood has zero toxicity, is safe, and has no contraindications whatsoever. Learn more and order your Bio Superfood formulas at BioAge.com. That's spelled BioAge.com. BioAge.com. Or you can call 877-288-9116. That's 877-288-9116. BioAge, the age of advanced organics.
Dr. Robert Rowan, M.D.
They literally do miracles for a wide variety of conditions, from infection to autoimmune conditions and beyond that.
I have a very close relative who was faced with a severe challenge to her immune system, and my father, as a family physician, suggested that she take the Carnivora. She took the Carnivora 3 times a day, and 3 weeks later, her condition was completely eliminated. It supported her immune system to such a degree that she's perfectly fine and healthy now.
This is Richard Ostro, owner for Carnivora Research International. Buy 2, get 1 free on Carnivora capsules. You must use the promotion code BCAPS3. That's B VCAPS3 when purchasing online at carnivora.com or calling 1-866-VENUS-FLY. That's CARNIVORA.com. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY. Protect your immune system. It's the only one you've got.
All right, who can it be knocking at my door? And I know that this is a very touchy subject for people, and it's extremely difficult to separate our beliefs from our feelings. But in my opinion, it is imperative that we do so if we are to save ourselves here and now. And when I talk about us living to die, it is because of the state of our current world. We have fracking. We have depleted uranium. We have Fukushima. We have the ongoing BP Gulf disaster. What is it that keeps us from taking action? We wage wars on innocent people. We allow the criminals to convict someone by an accusation of being a so-called terrorist, and a drone is sent that takes out 50 extra people. The starfish are melting in our oceans. The debris field is anywhere from the size of California to Texas, and yet we continue to ignore that because we're raised in poverty conscious, and we're so convinced that we need to attach our worth to paper and metal that we believe in these books that give us a reward after we die. That is my question. How do we even know? Why are we continuing to believe that Jesus existed when the contemporary writers of the time don't mention him at all? And it was a war zone back then. It wasn't a pastoral setting where they were able to give sermons, or he was able to give sermons. And the first saints were Flavians. Constantine, who actually brought Christianity to the forefront, was a Flavian. Are these all coincidences that we overlook conveniently like we do now with all of the evidence that traces 9/11 and the murders to the White House, to the Bush crime family, to Cheney, to Rumsfeld? We are putting blinders on, in my opinion, and missing the whole point. We belong. We were created by the same divine essence. What is in a name? All right, John Jones, finish your point, please.
Thanks. Was I making one? I hope I was trying. I think the answer to your question, was already given in the 1970s television program, and that was by Flip Wilson, and he said, "The devil made me do it," and that's basically what I believe, and it's the inability to see the evidence of the metaphysical reality. That is why we do what we do, or refuse to take any action. I mean, I myself, most of my action has been consistent with what you propose, which is strike. I think I started striking many years ago by refusing to be involved as much as possible in the insanity of modern life, and just not taking part of it and not striving to fulfill those same goals. So the reason why people are not taking action is because they're hypnotized and unable to see the evidence of metaphysical love and the undying nature of reality, which is huge and vast and multi-layered and unlimited, and it's so different than the everyday humdrum material reality. Why isn't there any evidence? Because it was destroyed. You have in the documentary you're talking about. I'm sorry that I don't know exactly. I can't tell you exactly the situation, but supposedly these people destroyed all of the Jewish writings, everything except for the Dead Sea Scrolls, which I find to be very insane. If they're going to destroy everything, why don't they destroy everything? Why do they keep one? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'll stop there.
Okay. Well, if it was hidden, that would make sense to me, because people do secret out evidence and they bury it when the government starts clamping down. Reverend Jim, do you have some comments here?
Well, yes. I think it all comes back to what, being caretakers. We can discuss all these religious concepts and continue to have different viewpoints, but it gets down to what are we here to do? You could look back with the story of Adam and Eve. What were they to do on earth? They were to tend the garden. They were caretakers. And that's really what we got to do, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash said. We got to get back to the garden and the garden consciousness. And the consciousness is our garden. That is the garden. It's the garden of consciousness. And what are we cultivating? Are we cultivating all these things that you talk about, Karen, all these atrocities that we see manifesting in the world, all the poison and toxins and war and disease and so on? Or are we manifesting love and empathy and compassion and nurturing and forgiveness? And are we caretakers or are we pirates? And that's really what it comes down to. It's the people that are controlling the world are pirates, and the masses are caretakers. And there's a statistic that 10% of the people will be caretakers, 10% will be pirates, and 80% will be swayed one way or the other. And Greg Braden says all it takes is the square root of the population of any given area to change the consciousness of the overall population. So we can change our environment. We can change the world by changing our frequency of our imagination. What do we imagine this world to be, ourselves to be? Jesus said, except that you become as a little child, you will no way see or enter the kingdom of heaven. And, what was the kingdom of heaven? A place where the lion lied with the lamb, and where there wasn't any disease or killing or anything going on. And that's really what we got to focus on. We got to have a new imagination of love and peace. Like Ziggy Marley says, love is my religion. I don't know if anybody listening has heard that song by Ziggy Marley, but love is my religion. And that's kind of what I have to share at this moment.
If we truly embrace love as our religion, then we would understand the complete hypocrisy in believing that murdering someone because our God is better than theirs would rule. And what about facing our own dark side? We talk about Jesus and then we talk about Satan. And that possibly, these are all reasons for Satan deceiving us. And still what I hear are reasons to, again, keep us from finding our own power, from going within, always looking without to try and fit into some other definition of who and how we should be. And during this time, we are oblivious to what is really happening around us because we're looking for rewards in an afterlife that none of us really know exists anyway. Myself, I believe that it does. I believe that quantum physics is proving that we are very, very much a part of creating our world, that our thoughts become things and affect our world. They affect the water, which has memory. I've been asked, why do I believe in water and not in Jesus? And I grew up believing in Jesus, and I still do, but I'm not so sure I believe that he was anything more than a metaphor. And possibly all of our religions are a little piece of a much greater puzzle. But who is served by our belief that our rewards come after we die? When you look at our world today and when we look in the mirror and see that we're born in debt, we die in debt, the state is taking over everywhere, including ultrasounds prescribed by doctors which affect our brains. And brain damage has occurred. We refuse to look at the thread between vaccines and autism and the eugenics and the secret societies that are here. We maintain our religious beliefs, work our jobs, keep our heads down, and obey. And I ask, where is our honor while our world is being flushed in the toilet around us, and we still believe somehow that by living our lives and obeying corruption and following immoral orders somehow will enable us life everlasting.
Hey,
John. Okay, we've got we've got a break right here. This is the final break. We are still going to end on a water meditation, so get your water if you'd like. Jim, we'll come back to you, then John. And if you have a question or a comment, 877-342-6673. We'll be right back.
What if you could shift into a parallel universe right now and be the solution to any problem you're facing? I'm Matthew David Hurtado, CEO of RNA Drops and author of Misfit to Millions, based on my true life story. 4 years ago, I was dying with Lyme's disease, PTSD, and virtually homeless. Ion and the RNA Drops gave me a new life, new DNA, and the power to become a millionaire in just a few short years. I want to pay that forward to you. Get a copy of my book, Misfit to Millions, and I'll give you a free bottle of RNA Drops, the product that changed my life. I've got $199 in free bonus gifts for the first 200 people that go to misfittomillions.com and get a copy of my book now. Go to misfittomillions.com. That's MISFITTO millions.com. What would you be, do, and have if you knew you couldn't fail? Take the plunge now. Go to misfittomillions.com.
Charlie McGrath of WideAwakeNews.com here with a question from my friends at Austin Rare Coins and Bullion. What do they know that we don't? Insiders and a who's who list of elite have made it crystal clear that we are headed for catastrophe, putting out warning after warning, urging people to batten down the hatches. Billionaire George Soros has recently been dumping stocks and at the same time acquiring millions in gold. In fact, in a recent interview, he was quoted as saying, "I'm not here to cheer you up. The situation is as serious and difficult as I've experienced in my career." Out of control government deficit spending and a Federal Reserve that's only solution seems to be print more fiat currency will lead to a weaker dollar and massive inflation on necessity items such as energy and food. If you have wealth to protect, please visit my friends at Austin Rare Coins and Bullion. Gabe Elton and the folks at Austin Rare Coins and Bullion have many Wide Awake News customers because they're honest, they're fair, and they won't sell you paper promises or product they do not have. Call Gabe Elton at 800-552-4109. That number again, 800-552-4109, or visit them online at austincoins.com.
Make a promise, take a vow, trust your feelings, it's easy now. Understand the voice within and feel a change already beginning.
Okay, we are back, and it looks like Joe Atwill had a lightning storm that put him out of commission there, so I've been catching him up to date. And while we talk about whether or not Jesus exists, what I'm looking for is the physical proof. So, Joe, what is it physically, aside from the story that I've already shared, that where is documentation actually that Jesus existed? Where are notes of scholars at the time? How do we know we're not being had?
Well, there isn't any evidence, archaeologic evidence of his existence. This isn't completely surprising because there are a lot of characters from this era that I think you'd have a hard time, pinning down actual archaeologic evidence. But it is odd that someone that purportedly had such an impact in Judea wouldn't have been written about by people during this era, particularly Philo, who wrote about what was going on in Judea, never mentions this. And the all of the evidence or writings about Jesus are by people who were in existence long after he was alive. I mean, you have the Gospels, but they were written post 70 CE. So before this, you have Tacitus and Josephus, but both of them were born after Jesus' death. So really, you don't have any. There's no real physical evidence of his death. The fact that the story of Jesus has so many miracles involved with it right off the bat suggests that you're dealing with a fictional character. So irrespective of my analysis showing that the whole ministry of Jesus is just a prefiguration of the Roman war, there really isn't any real reason to believe in his existence.
All right. Jim, you were making a comment before we left. Would you like to finish?
Yeah, I was going to respond to what you had to say, which I thought is very insightful about what's going on in the world and everything. But what I keep coming back to is what is needed here is a transformation of consciousness. We have all been programmed and put into a trance. One of your guests, I forget his name, but he mentioned hypnosis. We've been hypnotized. And it's a form of hypnosis, put into a trance by the ruling elite, and maybe, like Dr. Joseph Atwell says, the Flavian Caesars concocted a false imagination for people to believe in, to be programmed into. And that's what religion is. And the whole system is to keep us on what I call the gerbil wheel of activity and distraction with weapons of mass distraction, and keep us arguing over things that are really, kind of irrelevant, but they keep us divided. And it's time to get back to love and mercy and Matthew Fox was a Catholic priest, and he was kicked out of the Catholic Church for writing a book called Original Blessing, which is diametrically opposed to the Catholic Church's position of original sin. So that's really what it is. We've all been blessed. We're great, mighty, powerful spiritual beings who've been put into a trance by the ruling elite. It's time to snap out of the trance and back into our imaginations, which creative divine imaginations. Neville Goddard talks about this. He's a teacher from past decades, teaching about the power of our divine imagination. But that's really God. That's really what we are meant to be, is expressions of divine imagination and love and mercy and compassion and creativity.
I agree, although earlier as well you're talking about the fact that Jesus' teachings are important. And, when part of Jesus' teaching is to render unto Caesar and then to turn the other cheek, and then that our rewards are in the afterlife, that to me, again, tells us, wait until you die. Keep your head down. Pay your taxes. Don't question because it's blasphemy. How dare you? My God is better than your God, and I want to see the physical
abuse.
I want to see physical proof. All right, John, do you have any comments? Then I'm going to toss it over to Joe, and then I still will bring us back into the water meditation, because water has been proven in laboratories to hold memory. We are composed a lot of water, and we've got to have a way to stop allowing our world to be destroyed while claiming we're going to get a reward later. John.
I just want to make sure that we don't forget that part of the message was also that the kingdom of heaven is within you. And, it's not from me, it's from my Father, which means what he's saying is that this material world is not your ruler. The kingdom of heaven is your ruler. It's within you. That is so much more relevant than turn the other cheek and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. I mean, he was very much saying what is Caesar's is not important. What is important is the kingdom of heaven, which is in you.
Okay, and that's a great point. So if it's within us and our thoughts become
it's within your imagination
things, we're still waiting to die. Many of us are not looking within, and we're also not acknowledging that supposedly the Satan character may also be the shadow side of ourselves we are unwilling to face. Joe, final thoughts here, because it's gone by very, very quickly. And Joe, I'm hoping you can join me next week, because throughout now this 3 weeks, I hear a lot about faith. I hear a lot about trust. I hear a lot about Jesus is a son of God. Questioning him is blasphemy, and I just keep thinking that we're running in circles and avoiding taking action here while we continue to flush ourselves down the toilet.
Right. I would agree with the first gentleman who was talking about mind control and how we're just being shaped into the configurations that the ruling elite want. And this was clearly the case with Constantine when he made Christianity the state religion. I mean, the reason he did it was essentially to create docility and make people easy to rule. But I would disagree with him that the imagination is really where you want to head. I mean, the people who create the mind control, that is what they want you to do. They want you to go into an internal world where you don't really have any impact on the stuff that they want, which is political power, control over the weapons, and control over the money. So I would just say, just go in completely the opposite direction, is wake up from the mind control and become politically active and try to connect to your senses, because that's what the ruling elite wants you to not attach to, and try to contest slavery and poverty and the kinds of controls that are leading us to a neo-feudalism, and one that will have technology in back of it. So I would just say that I would have the same suspicion over all of the philosophies that have to do with imagination and kind of vague spiritual concepts, as I do with Roman Catholicism. I mean, these are all just ultimately things that the ruling class knows how to maneuver the populations into, and once they're there, then they're harmless and they can just be exterminated. So I would just say, fight for your life and connect to your senses and try to develop some political power.
All right, thank you. John, give us your website, please, and how people can catch up with you.
It's simply jjjones.de.
Okay, Brett, I'm sorry, would you turn that low? Okay, give us your website again, John. John?
jjjones.de, as in Deutschland, Germany.
Okay, thank you. And Reverend Jim, your website?
Yeah, the best one is to go to healthonplanetearth.com.
All right, thank you very much. And Joe?
Hey, CaesarsMessiah.com. Buy the book. There's a documentary, and if you have questions, I'm always available.
Hey,
all right, well, hopefully you'll be here next week.
I promise I will be.
All right, we'll be taking phone calls because I'm a blasphemer. I'm a blasphemer. All right. Actually, what we're going to do is go out on a Gregorian chant, because with all of this, let's step back, accept the fact that there's more to this than we know. We're all pieces of the puzzle. I don't believe any of us has the exclusive answer or the exclusive way to heaven. What I do believe, though, is that until we are willing to take action now, we're destroying this world while somehow anticipating a better world by some deity who will look back and see that we trashed where we currently lived, but justified it because we expected them to make up for it later. And I think that is totally disempowering. Although, that being said, I still have a relationship with Jesus, because to me it's that same divine essence, and what is in a name. Thank you very much for tuning in. Brett, will you take us out with the music? Have your water. Please think about this. Our world and our future and our children depend on it.
Mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue, and a host of other symptoms. Oxy-C is yours in simple, convenient capsules. Nothing to mix, nothing to hassle with. Take it with juice or water anytime. Feel a cold or flu approaching? Have no energy or spark anymore? Try all-natural Oxy-C and prepare to be amazed. Oxy-C is only available from New Earth Health Solutions at Rense.com. Look for the New Earth banner at Rense.com.
In 2007, one man, Mike Dillard, made 5 predictions which forecasted the 2008 economic crisis and the pending Eurozone collapse. 3 brand new, shocking, must-watch videos with predictions for the coming year. www.the3videos.com. Over the past year, Mike Dillard has helped thousands of ordinary people create and recover wealth by tapping into the black box investing strategies the big banks don't want you to know about. www.the3videos.com. As the European banking system implodes and governments collapse at breakneck speeds, the next 12 months will be the most anticipated and important months in modern human history. This will make 2008 look like a walk in the park. Everyone will be affected. Go to www.the3videos.com now. Learn how to prepare your family and prosper during the global financial collapse.
You're listening to the Rense Radio Network, nationwide and worldwide on the net and at Rense.com.